You didn't choose to keep that afternoon. Nobody asked you. That day the song was just background, playing on some radio, in some car, in some store, and you were thinking about something else entirely, but some part of you was recording, not the song, the whole afternoon. The light coming through the window at that exact angle, the smell of the car seat, the temperature of the air, and then, without warning, your brain took all of it and filed it underneath that song, the way you hide a key under a rug and forget you ever did it. Years later, you're standing in a checkout line, or stopped at a red light, and 3 notes come out of a speaker, 3 notes of a song you haven't heard in a lifetime, and suddenly you're not in the line anymore. You're back in that car, in that afternoon, with that exact light coming through the window. You can almost smell it. You didn't decide to go there, you got pulled. So how does a sound reach inside you and drag one specific afternoon out of 1,000 forgotten ones? Not a vague memory. The whole afternoon, the light, the smell, the age you were. And the strangest part, you did nothing. You didn't choose it, you didn't try, you never saw it coming. It's one of the strangest and most beautiful things your mind does, and it does it on its own, without telling you. Let's follow one of those afternoons from start to finish, from the day it got recorded, through the years it slept, to the second 3 notes woke it back up. Here's the first strange thing. On the day that memory formed, you weren't trying to remember anything. You weren't paying attention to the song. Maybe you were heading to school. Maybe you were waiting for someone. It was an ordinary afternoon, the kind that shouldn't survive, the kind that disappears the same day, and the song was scenery. It was there, but it wasn't the point. Stay inside that afternoon with me for a second, because the detail matters. You were in a car seat warm from the sun. There was a patch of light trembling on the dashboard. Someone was driving and saying something you barely caught. Outside, the trees blurred past. And the song came out of the speaker quietly, half-finished, with a little static. None of it was important. None of it was meant to stay. It was just a Tuesday afternoon in the middle of 1,000 Tuesdays, and that's exactly why it stuck. Your brain doesn't store memories as a neat file of facts. It stores the whole moment all at once, what you saw, what you heard, what you felt, all tied into the same bundle. There's a structure deep in your brain, about the size and shape of a curled finger, called the hippocampus. Its job is to take those loose things, the song, the light, the smell, your mood in that instant, and stitch them into a single knot, a knot of context. The song wasn't filed on its own, it was filed tied to the whole afternoon. Scientists have a name for this, and the name gives away the secret. Context-dependent memory. It means that whatever was around you the moment you learned something becomes part of the memory itself. The surroundings aren't the backdrop. The surroundings go into the file. And there's an experiment about this that I find impossible to forget, because it has nothing to do with music. It has to do with divers. Back in the 70s, 2 researchers took a group of scuba divers and had them memorize a list of words. Half of them learned the list on the beach, on dry sand. The other half learned it down below, underwater, in full diving gear, with the sea pressing over them. Then came the tests. And what showed up was beautiful in how strange it was. The ones who learned underwater remembered far more of the words when they were back underwater. The ones who learned on the sand remembered more on the sand. The place where the memory went in became the key that opened it again. Changed the place. And the key didn't fit anymore. Your afternoon works the same way. The song is the place. The song is the underwater. It was present when the memory went in, so it became the doorway into the whole memory. And if you've ever felt this in your body, that jolt of being thrown back in time for 3 seconds, do one thing for me before I go on. Stop reading for a moment and think about which song does this to you. Yours. Not a generic one, the one that opens a specific afternoon. Hold it in your head while we keep going, because everything from here is about it. If any of this is landing for you, drop the song in the comments and where it takes you. I read them, and there's someone down there who needed to see they're not the only one keeping a whole afternoon underneath a song. Now why music? Why not any sound? A dog barking takes you nowhere. A car horn opens no afternoon, but 3 notes of one specific song take you apart in seconds. What does music have that other sounds don't? Two things, and the first is feeling. When that song was playing that afternoon, it wasn't just coming in through your ears. It was touching the part of your brain that handles emotion and the part that handles pleasure, the one that drips a little dopamine when something feels good, and a memory with emotion glued to it sticks deeper. It's like your brain slapped a label on top of the file that said, "This matters, keep it carefully." The ordinary afternoon became a marked afternoon, not because anything big happened, but because the song glued emotion onto it without asking permission. The second thing is subtler, and almost nobody thinks about it. Music moves through time. A smell is a single instant, a photo is frozen, but a song is a sequence. One thing comes after another, in an order your brain already knows by heart, and that's where the trick lives. The instant you hear the first note, your brain is already racing ahead, reaching for the next one. It knows this song, it knows what comes next, and that hand reaching forward, that automatic prediction, is what gives the jolt. It's not just the note that played, it's the note your brain already knows is coming. It's so far ahead, so locked in step with the song, that along with the next note it drags in the whole afternoon that was tied to it. 3 notes are enough, because by the third note your brain is already playing the rest on the inside, and the afternoon comes along for the ride. And here's what's interesting. It doesn't even have to be the real recording. It doesn't have to be good. It can be a bad mall speaker, all static, playing some half-baked version. It can be someone humming it wrong on the bus. It can be just the shape of the melody, its skeleton, with no lyrics, none of the right instruments, and it still opens, because it's not the high-quality sound your brain kept. It's the pattern, it's the shape the melody makes in the air, rising and falling. And that shape is so yours, so burned in, that the crummiest version in the world still fits the lock. You recognize a song you love in under a second, from a broken little scrap, faster than you recognize almost anything else. The skeleton is enough. The afternoon doesn't ask for the perfect sound, it asks for the right one. And there's one more piece, and this one explains why it's always the old songs. There's a phenomenon researchers call the reminiscence bump. Here's what it is. The strongest, most vivid memories a person carries their whole life tend to come from a narrow window, roughly from 10 to 25 years old. It's the stretch where everything is a first. First love, first time driving, first time away from home. Your brain is building who you are, and it records those years in thicker ink. And guess what was playing the whole time through those years? The soundtrack of that stretch isn't just any soundtrack, it's stitched into the period when you most became you. That's why a song from when you were 17 opens a trapdoor that a song from last week doesn't come close to opening. So the file got created, deep, marked, tied to an afternoon, with a soundtrack your brain knows by heart. And then comes the quietest part of the story, the years it lies asleep. Because for a long time nothing happens. The afternoon sinks. You live 10,000 other afternoons on top of it. You forget it exists, genuinely forget. If someone asked you to describe any random afternoon from that year, you couldn't. It's not within your reach, it's locked. And the key that opens that specific door isn't your will. You can't get there by effort. You can close your eyes and try with all your strength to remember an afternoon from 15 years ago, and nothing comes. The file is there, whole, intact, but it doesn't open from the inside. It only opens with the right key, and the right key is that sound. That's why these little time trips always catch you off guard. They never show up when you sit down to remember. They show up in the grocery line, at the red light, in a department store where someone picked an old playlist. You'll never go looking for this memory. It comes looking for you. And then, one day it comes. The 3 notes play, and before you understand what's happening, the world around you loses its color for a second. The line disappears, the store disappears, and the amber light of that afternoon comes back on, exact, warm, the way it fell through the window. You didn't think of it. It showed up whole, all at once, with the smell and the temperature and your mood at that age inside it. And look at what your brain just did. It heard the key and rebuilt the entire room. Scientists call this reinstatement. The brain takes the cue, the trigger, and reignites the whole pattern that was stored with it. The song didn't remind you of the afternoon. The song switched the afternoon back on. It didn't tell you what happened. It put you back inside it. And this is where the thing stops being an ordinary memory and turns into almost a return. Notice the difference. There's a way of remembering that's warm and distant. You know it happened at your grandmother's house. You know roughly what it was like. But it's information, a fact tucked in a drawer. And there's another way, much rarer, where you don't know the memory, you fall inside it, you feel it again. Researchers separate these two things with different names. One is just knowing it happened, the other is reliving it from the inside. Most of your memories are the first kind, the warm one, but music triggers the second. It doesn't give you information about the afternoon. It hands you back the experience of the afternoon. For 3 seconds you're not remembering being 17. You are 17 and the whole rest of your life hasn't happened yet. And sometimes no picture even comes. That's the strangest one of all. Sometimes the song plays and there's no car, no window, no face. Just the feeling, a whole wave of what it was like to be you that year, without a single scene attached. You stand there in the line with your eyes stinging for a reason you can't name. Missing an afternoon you can't even see clearly. Because what got stored deepest wasn't the picture, it was the state, and music reaches the state before it reaches the photo. And here's the thing I find the most beautiful of all. This key is yours alone. The same song plays over the grocery store speaker for everyone in line at the same time. But it doesn't take anyone to the same place. The old man beside you got thrown into a kitchen in 1980-something. The woman behind you went back to a dorm room. And you went to your car, on your afternoon, in your light. One song, 3 notes, and it opens a different room inside every head that hears it. You could play your most sacred song for another person, hoping they'd feel what you feel, and they'll just hear a song. Because the afternoon isn't in the song. The afternoon is in you. And the song is only the key that opens your door. It's the most shared and the most private thing there is, at the same time. Notice something important because this is where almost everyone gets it wrong. You didn't remember that afternoon. The afternoon played. You were an instrument being played by a sound. Your will had no part in it. And that's why it's so impossible to fake and so impossible to force. Nobody can produce that jolt on purpose. It only happens when the right key slides into the right lock, and you never know when that's going to be. Which brings me to the part I find most beautiful in all of it. We tend to think of memory as a list of facts. What happened, when, with whom. But the memory a song opens isn't a list of facts. You don't remember what was said in that car. You don't know what day of the week it was. What comes back isn't the information. What comes back is the texture, the light, the smell, the exact feeling of being alive in that minute, because that's how it was stored. Your brain didn't file the afternoon as a note, it filed the whole room. And music is the one thing in the world that opens the whole room at once. A song then isn't really a sound, it's an index, a tag hanging off one specific afternoon you lived and didn't know you were saving. And as long as that tag exists, that afternoon never truly disappears. It just waits for the right sound to pass by again. There's something almost generous in that. Your brain kept, without asking you, a piece of a person you used to be and aren't anymore. It kept the light of that late afternoon. It kept the smell. It kept what it was like to be you before everything that came after. And it left one single door, invisible, with no lock on the outside, one you don't control, so you could step back in for 3 seconds whenever the right song passes. Most of your afternoons vanished for good, with no tag, no key, no way back. But not that one. That one stayed, because a song happened to be playing while it was becoming a memory. So the next time you're in the line, or stopped at the light, and 3 notes of an old song come out of some random speaker, and the floor drops out from under you for an instant, now you know what those 3 notes are. It's not the song making you feel nostalgic. It's a key sliding into a lock you forgot existed, opening a room that was there the whole time intact, with the amber light still on waiting for you to come back. 3 notes. That's all it takes.